Okay, so that's me up there, but I guess I already presented myself, so I can move forward. My presentation today will touch these topics. So I will talk about forest industry kind of as a whole and a couple of different viewpoints or angles of how to look at the industry. I'll talk about digitalization, ecosystems, digital forest twin, and a couple of case examples around that theme and walking through this agenda. Maybe not exactly in this order, but touching these topics. And in the beginning, very shortly about Tieto. We're a Nordic, North European company having our headquarters in Finland, but operating in about 20 countries, working in many industries, telecom, public sector, manufacturing, energy, healthcare and welfare, and very much in forest industry as well, which is one of our key industries actually. And well, we can say that we are one of the biggest players globally actually who have a organization and a business around forest industry. Working in Europe, here in the Nordics, but also overseas. But that's about Tieto. So if we go forward to the actual topic. So like I said, I think forest industry can be looked at from a couple of different viewpoints. This is what I call a engineer view, the supply chain view of forest industry, how you often look at the business processes and the supply chain in the industry. It's kind of a linear representation going through different production stages from sourcing through production to distribution to consumers and circulating back when it comes to recycling the raw material. And that is of course a valid and correct representation of forest industry and the way we often look at it. But if you think about the industry itself and its image and the big change that has happened actually during I would say during just a few years, actually, another way to look at forest industry, I think, is I would call it a consumer view. So many of you probably remember that forest industry was often referred to as a sunset industry and kind of an industry that is not having future in the Nordics, declining, etc. That has dramatically changed now during just a few years, I would say, which is great for us who are working with that industry and great for Finnish and Nordic economies. And it means that part of this is, I would say, rebranding and renaming things, talking about bioeconomy, bioindustries, bioproducts, but it's of course not just a branding issue. It's really a result of innovations and a result of, I would say, a complete change of mindset globally, actually, the trend towards renewable things, green things, sustainability, and I would say that forest industry today seems to have it has a new name, it has a new brand. It's kind of a hot industry, trendy industry again. And this is also related to the fact that in forest industry, like in basically all industries, consumerization has actually changed and is changing dramatically the kind of the way business is being done and I would say the success factors and what are those things that you need to be good at in order to be successful in your business. You need to, your customers, even if they are B2B customers, more and more behave like consumers. I mean, they have freedom of choice. They have instant online, quite transparent access to different vendors, different options. You're also in a B2B industry competing more and more the same way that you are normally or you're used to do in the business to consumer industry. So I would say that this is a dramatic change. It happens gradually, but it happens everywhere. So customer experience, as it's called, it's really become a critical success factor also in business to business world. But forest industry has a new name, and that is a great thing. About digitalization, just briefly, we use that word a lot. It's been around for many years actually, and I think people, when they think about digitalization, they have a different. Many people or different people might have different understanding about it. My kind of a perception or interpretation of digitalization, I think it has three levels or three areas. Actually, the whole name digitalization, I think it's a bit unfortunate because you connect it so strongly to digitalizing things or digital technologies, which is of course related to that, but is only part of that. So I would say that digitalization, of course, it is based on the fact that everything is being connected. Devices, systems, solutions are becoming smart and communicating with each other. We're creating a huge amount of data. We're actually recording everything, all the transactions. We finally have powerful analytics and intelligent systems that really can dig out valuable information from that data in real time in a way that really supports business decision making, and we have kind of a data explosion and real time revolution ongoing, and we become globally connected. So that is a basis of digitalization, but I still think that kind of a more significant elements in digitalization or related to behavior of customers, like I talked about consumerization and the consumer way of looking at things, putting all the suppliers and business actors in a new position. So you really need to serve your customers like consumers. They are very fast to I would say compare the vendors, change the vendors. They expect real-time, immediate, tailored service, and that is the kind of a success factor nowadays. And of course, digitalization is very much about new ways of doing business, new services, replacing or completing the old ways of doing business. And it also means that new kind of actors, new kind of players come to the field in a very agile way. So digitalization is all that. But we'll stick to this name, digitalization, because it's so established and kind of a is already I would say universally accepted as meaning this. But so it's so much more than the digital technologies. So we're living in a data-driven world, and digitalization also, just briefly, I mean, it's something that is happening on all levels. You can digitalize your business processes. I mean, that's about applying digital technologies, connections, all that. You can digitalize your customer experience, so serve your customers in an online, digital, tailored way. You can digitalize your products and services, and then you can change, re-innovate your business completely around that. And basically, you do all these things in parallel, so it's not a kind of a step by step thing that you would need to be perfect on the first level before you can proceed to the next one. So all that is happening in parallel, at varying speeds in various industries. And I believe, and I see that bioeconomy and digitalization, they are like a perfect pair to each other. They are both have this consumer angle. They are both kind of themes and trends that are accelerating each other. And if we combine to that global trends that we see ongoing now, and all the new technological innovations, artificial intelligence finally breaking through, at least how it looks like. All these intelligent things we have, robotics, drones, virtual and augmented reality, digital twins, blockchain. There's a lot of that kind of technological development that is becoming mature now to be really applied to reality. So I mean, this what we are cooking here, when we combine all this, it's a fascinating combination, and all these elements actually catalyze each other. So opportunities are really big. We're going to see a very interesting and exciting things, probably at the accelerating speed here. And then the main theme maybe here is ecosystems, connecting players together, and in order to achieve all the kind of benefits that you can get when you have real-time connections between business actors, and you can transparently see things through the chain. You can optimize end-to-end, you can optimize, minimize storages, buffers, streamline everything. In order to really do that in practice, you need to connect the actors together, and that's about building ecosystems. And it means that instead of having point-to-point type of connections, typically bigger player having that, smaller player being not connected at all, you need to move to kind of a world on the right-hand side where we have ways to connect players together and in a standard way, which makes it easy and cost-effective for everybody to join. I can see that some colors on the slide are not properly visible with that projector, but I guess we're okay. And when we think about wood and fiber supply, it is quite an ecosystem itself. There's some examples from Finland. We actually have a very unique ecosystem, in the sense that if you think about wood and fiber supply, half of the volume of the raw material is coming from individual private forest owners. So, and that's over 600,000 of them in Finland, which means that over 10% of Finns are actually forest owners. But what it means is that in this industry, does that mean halfway? Thanks. In this industry, you have a huge amount of raw material vendors that are actually consumer-like players. So there you concretely see that in this industry, you really need to think about your suppliers as consumers, and it means also the ways to serve them or to connect to them. You need to think about how you would operate with the consumers. But okay, so instead of this linear supply chain chart that I showed in the beginning, we more and more think about it like an ecosystem where all the players are connected and interacting with each other, whether it's forest owners, forest service companies, harvesting, logistics, and then actual production. And you can extend this ecosystem in many ways. One example is to include forestry machinery vendors. There was some, I think, representatives of those companies here as well. Equally being this ecosystem, having the harvesting companies, or actually the forest companies that have the harvesting entrepreneurs as their subcontractors, or depending whatever the business model is and who is eventually buying this harvesting capacity as a service. It's part of the same ecosystem. So you can extend this to many directions, and then have customers and customers, or vendors and vendors in the ecosystem. But this is a way we quite much in Tieto also think about these things and build solutions around that, to really connecting the ecosystem. Forest Hub is one of our services we launched last spring actually, which is doing exactly this in a standard way. And luckily in forest industry we have standards like PuppyNet, for instance, as a messaging standard that is globally accepted in the industry and makes it easier to build ecosystem services, relying on this kind of already established industry standard interfaces. But extending still a bit on top of that, we're talking about what might have many names, but we talk about digital forest twin, meaning digital twin is a concept that is used quite a lot in many industries, like in manufacturing, meaning that you build a digital representation of a physical world thing, whether it's a machine or a process, like an aircraft can be quite accurately digitally modeled, and then you can do simulation and testing and planning and all kind of things around using the digital twin without having to go close to the physical one, or even without having it existing yet. So similarly, when it comes to forest assets, the target is to come up with a digital twin, which I'm sure will not be just one representation somewhere. It's probably heterogeneous, and there are probably many levels and ways of doing that. But anyway, the idea is that when we have the kind of a transactional world down here going through the supply chain, and we have the ecosystem hubs, ecosystem services connecting that, and then we accumulate data from all the transactions, and then also collect and build a digital accurate twin or representation of the forest assets, then applying growth models and using all these technologies that I'm sure will be touched here in much more details. We have a quite fascinating tool in our hands that enables us to do simulation, planning, optimization, and everything in a digital way and fast. Kind of being detached from the physical world, but of course the physical world there is when the actual value is then created when we use the physical assets. But this is a way to reach a complete new level of optimization opportunities and effectiveness around this. And there are many use cases. I will also touch very briefly a couple of them that we are involved in here, and many more will be talked about here during these 2 days. So one such, this is actually with Metsä Group, some Metsä Group representatives here as well. One example is a project where we're using drones to scan forest areas using special cameras and technology, having one subcontractor actually providing all those facilities, and then analyzing that data and that model to detect bark beetle attacks early on before they are visible to the human eye, and then working on that and accumulating and updating the model all the time. And of course the algorithms and the analytics are learning from this. In Austria, the bark beetle is really a big problem, and even more than in the Nordics. And now this is tested here. Metsä Group is testing this technology to see what kind of results can be achieved here in Finland. And this is of course also accumulating the digital twin information as well, in addition to providing these analytics that are kind of telling about the bark beetle situation. Having certain colors representing the areas that there seems to be a problem starting, but it's not visible to the human eye yet, etc. And there are different levels on that. Another really fascinating thing is virtual forest, or visualizing this digital twin using virtual reality technologies. This is just a screenshot here. So when you put the VR glasses on there, you really jump into the forest, and it's really impressive how you can move around and do things there. But of course, the idea is that you can visualize how the forest looks like. You can simulate different operations, thinnings, clear cuttings. You can see the value of the trees, and you can basically, when you have a model that is extensive enough, you can basically do all those things that I talked about on the other slide about what digital twins are for, or what they can be used for. So this is also a pretty impressive thing, and I think, if I understood correctly, there are this kind of topics on the agenda as well. So I'm not diving into that now physically, but been there, and I was impressed. Yeah, I love this picture. This is from Metsä Group directly, so I kind of copied that. But there we have a representation of a digital twin that this nice couple there is kind of looking at what's happening at their forest somewhere in the north. And maybe one slide, kind of. I think we're going towards kind of a biodigital world. I'm not talking about bionic men or something like that here. I rather mean that this bioeconomy and digitalization and all that combined will really change the world. We will have new agile ways of doing business, tailored online service, everything being very sustainable, zero waste, produce locally, optimize globally type of opportunities, utilizing all these digital twins and the intelligent systems we have, and applying all that to I would say a consumerized way, so that we all of us kind of can enjoy the ride, so to speak. I actually think I could surprise the stuff here and already here, 3 minutes ahead of schedule. So thank you, and I think there is some time for questions, discussions, if there are any. So please. You can also, I'll be here today and the afternoon, but then unfortunately I have to leave around 3 o'clock, 3:30. So I would have loved to stay overnight, but unfortunately it was not possible this time. So, but now or later.
Thank you, Jaakko, very much. Let's take a big hand for Jaakko. So,
Thank
question,
you.
please. Probably there is many questions. So, I would like to start about the digital twins. Can you shortly describe what does it mean, digital twins?
It means Well, it means actually what it's called. So it is a twin, digital twin of a physical thing, you could say. So it means that in let's say manufacturing, like I'll use this aviation or aircraft industry example, it means that you have a digital model that is representing all the dynamics that, of course, the physical measures and characteristics and dynamics of a, let's say, an aircraft. And then you can test how it behaves in different extreme conditions. You can kind of simulate things without playing with the physical thing. And digital forest twin means that you have a digital model of the forest assets where you know you have details about the volumes and the number of the trees and the height and species, and you apply growth models and all the kind of circumstances related to the ground, weather, everything. I mean, I don't think there's any limit on how accurate digital twin can be representing the physical world, but that is a digital twin. And then what you do with the digital twin, it can be anything yet that you would like to do with the physical thing, but it's impractical or not possible, because if you simulate clear cutting and you afterwards think that, well, it was not a good idea, so it's a bit tough to roll back with the actual forest. But with digital twin you can just click and start all over again. A simplified example, but that's a digital twin.
Thank you. So, other question?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Ali Harlin from VTT. I can come a little bit later on my topic, but first I would like to comment your pronunciation that the forest industry has renamed itself to bioeconomy, or made an equivalency between those two. Forest industry has always been a part of bioeconomy, and it's deepening its integration to bio-based industries, and that's where the, say, digitalization and particularly the visibility over the different, say, process industries, construction, manufacturing industries extremely requires the say, cloud solutions, ability to say, have a transparency over and be able to transfer the say, data from different forms to be unified form information. But like I would say, there is a much deeper structural change ongoing in the forest industry. So it's not a title which is just glued on a top. So I'm strongly against that interpretation.
Well, thanks for the comment, and I fully agree that bioeconomy as a concept, of course, is much more than just forest industry. So I probably have forest glasses on so much that I kind of focus on that. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Is other questions?
Yes, Kalle Ikonen from Metsä Group, and based on Espoo. And my question is about this accuracy, which you meant already. So, do you have any results how accurate the digital twin has to be that customers accepted it? And no matter what's the industry, but basically.
I think that that depends quite much on what you want to do with the model. If we think about forest valuation, I think already now with these methods we have today, I mean, we've reached the accuracy that you can valuate or estimate the value quite accurately, especially if you combine these different methods. Depends on what level of simulation or prediction you want to do with that. That's a tough question. I think the accuracy will improve all the time, so we'll probably never reach a kind of a model that we now say that it's accurate enough. So the next thing is then, especially if we go into, I would say, in refining the wood and fiber further, kind of being even more accurately able to simulate what kind of components and ingredients you really have in which accuracy in a certain forest area. If you calculate all the kind of refining chains forward, all the products, chemicals, whatever you want to get out there, so that you would basically in the end utilize 100% of the biomass into and convert it to some products, I think you need to add the accuracy. But maybe a bit vague answer, but to be honest, I don't know if there is a certain level that we could say that now we have a perfect digital model. That I think that applies to everything when you are digitalizing physical world things, that you kind of make compromise. Maybe in banking you can have the accuracy because you have a currency units, and if you say that it's tenth of a cent, then that's clearly defined. But for instance, as you know, in digital music, you could add the bit rate, and you can add the amount of bits that you're using, and you're getting better and better representation of the analog sound signal, but it will never be the same anyway. And then you have algorithms that kind of trick your ear and brain so that you don't hear the fact that the part of the original music is actually missing. So also here, of course, you can have these intelligent algorithms and solutions that then, even if the model is not containing all the details, can kind of interpret or interpolate the details in there, and guessing pretty well that what's actually missing from the model. It's a complicated answer, but Kalle, are you happy with that? Thank you.
Any other complicated questions?
Timo Tahvonen from Joensuu Science Park. Thank you, Jaakko, for an excellent overview over our themes today. So, what do you see as the most promising or exciting sources for big data or problems in the forest value chain?
If we think about big data and all that data, I think it's not being an expert on any particular method of data acquisition. I think it's a combination of several methods, and so it's not terrestrial methods. It's not just laser scanning. It's not just drones. I mean, it's always going to be a combination of data coming from different sources and combining that data, and then refining the model based on that, and then applying growth models and algorithms that are not actually based on measured data directly, but then which still refine the model. So I don't have I'm not betting on any individual horse in that race, in that sense. I think it's a combination of data sources, and probably there will be new data sources that we haven't figured out yet. And many of you probably also have seen and know about this certain application and services where you are using your cell phone, taking pictures in the forest, just a kind of a reasonable amount of pictures in the area, and then having intelligent algorithms to process that and coming up with surprisingly accurate analysis or estimation of what you have in the forest, which species and what are the volumes and heights of that. So I believe it's a combination. I don't believe there will be one single winner or one single digital twin that would reside in one database somewhere and everybody would rely on that. It's kind of a, I know there are public big projects around digitalizing forest assets, and then it of course comes to the question of who owns, who manages the data, and what is the price for using it? Is it for free or is there a certain price for then a more refined data on top of that? And I think both levels will exist there. So it's a heterogeneous world.
Thank you. I would like to ask a little bit more further for that. So there is plenty of different type of solution and application is available already. But what you think? What is the next big thing which is breakthrough in this digitalization and forest and that kind of innovation and technology? So what is the next big thing which is the breakthrough?
Well, I can think about two things. First, I think, which is already kind of known and coming up, I think it's related to these ecosystem services. So one big thing is that we really get the industry connected so that we have a way of exchanging business information between the companies, and that will enable end-to-end type of optimization and open also the possibilities for completely new kind of services when new players also get a grip on or can connect to the information. Another next big thing is that we'll already see signs of, but I think it's related to this virtual forest, that when we have enough data, enough coverage of the digital twin, you could say, then we can really start jumping into the twin and start doing things. It's not about playing game. Of course, it can be fun as well, but it's really, I mean, has a strong commercial basis for doing things using your digital representation without the need to go close to the physical assets. So suddenly, I would say in a couple of years, we will see very exciting services for consumers and for business partners in this area.
Thank you. Any other question? So I think that we need to go. Okay, one more.
Yes, Kimmo Solehmainen from VTT. To excuse my little limited view question, might be simple. Ali Herlin from VTT has more kind of a industry viewpoints, and I represent more like photonics technology solutions. But my question is twofold. For example, is it now your target to, in the future, digitalize every single tree from Finnish forests all over, and which time scale? And second, do you have a message to small owners, forest owners like my father-in-law, who has few hectares, what he will get from digitalization in future? Better prices, what?
Okay, yeah, there were two questions. I think the first one is related a bit to what I think Kalle Ikonen already asked about, that what is the level of detail that we're getting to. Yeah, I think that one step is to digitalize every single tree trunk. It's a long way to go to that. Then I don't know if we go further to digitalizing every branch and then every leaf or needle, I don't know. But this kind of single tree target, I think that kind of makes sense, because every individual tree is clearly an object, and it would make sense to digitalize them. Not necessarily all the spots and colors and shades, but at least what is it, which species, which height, which volume, which age, things like that. So at least that, I think. And then your second question about the individual forest owners and the benefits for digitalization. There are many angles also here. If we talk about the urban forest owner, which in this case I guess that's not the case, but urban young forest owners who basically do not have any kind of experience about forests at all, and don't really know what to do with that. I mean, for them, of course, digital services offer huge opportunities of kind of being able to do business, sell forest, find owners, find best bids, find information about what you can actually do with your forests, or with these virtual things, maybe visit the forest in the future without needing to go there. Of course, part of the fun is to go there and take the chainsaw and start kind of doing real things there. But for them, I think the digital services really offer opportunities to do things around your forest that you wouldn't know how to. But also, I mean, if you are living close to your forest and you're kind of used to doing those things, I would say it also opens, if you want to sell, you get access to potential buyers, you can compare the prices, you get access to this. Maybe you can, if you want to use or offer your forest for recreational use, you can, by using the digital model, present it to somebody else somewhere and tell that, hey, I have this kind of facilities here that I can rent, or etc. I think either way, being able to either know about the opportunities or potential business partners, or to be able to offer things to the outside world fast and to a much wider audience. I mean, you can present your forest area to an Asian tourist somewhere, and they can kind of see that, hey, we have a nice place to go here, and really getting them connected. Could be one scenario. So yeah, probably we haven't invented most of the opportunities yet that it actually provides.